Reliever Roundup and Bullpen Bonanza is brought to you by Sport Relay. Honest, unbiased, and apolitical. Sport Relay, your connection to the diamond. And by A Complete History of the Major League Baseball Playoffs, Volumes 1 and 2, by Evan Thompson. Relive the glory. A Complete History of the Major League Baseball Playoffs.
This week on Reliever Roundup and Bullpen Bonanza. Meltdown Anatomy, World Series Edition. Deadbolt Delivered, World Series Edition. The 2025 Reliever Roundup and Bullpen Bonanza Relief Pitching Awards. And a visit with our special guest, Dodgers beat writer Sonja Chen from MLB.com, who returns to discuss the World Series. Don't go away! Reliever Roundup and Bullpen Bonanza begins now. Welcome to Reliever Roundup and Bullpen Bonanza. I'm your host, Evan Thompson, Editor-in-Chief, National Writer, and Athletics Writer at Sport Relay. I also wrote these two books, A Complete History of the Major League Baseball Playoffs, Volume 1, The Pre-Divisional Tiebreakers through 1976, and Volume 2, 1977 through 1984. Volume 2 also includes the 1978 AL East tiebreaker game between the Yankees and Red Sox, also known as the Bucky Dent game, and the 1980 NL West tiebreaker between the Astros and Dodgers, also known as the Joe Niekro game. If you are interested in ordering a copy or two, there are links in the description box below this video. It has been nearly 2 weeks since Game 7, and I am still in awe of how exciting this World Series was. My first World Series was in 1988. My first game was the Kirk Gibson home run off Dennis Eckersley while he was injured. So this was my 37th World Series, and it is easily in the top 5. And to talk about this epic series, we will have Dodgers beat writer Sonja Chen come by later on. She covered every game. She was terrific last time she was here, and you will love her again today, I am sure of it. On the biggest stage, every pitch carries the weight of history. And in this World Series, 4 innings played crucial roles in swinging the championship. Let's break them down in another installment of Meltdown Anatomy. Our first meltdown inning had the highest net loss of win expectancy by any pitching team in the entire series. It came in the very first game. On to Skydome! Or, wait, I did that wrong. On to Rogers Center! Game 1, Dodgers at Blue Jays, October 24th, bottom of the 6th. Here's the situation. The game is tied at 2. Starting pitcher Blake Snell is still in the game, facing the 4, 5, 6 hitters. Being the bottom of the 6th, it is not a goose egg scenario, and the Dodgers' win expectancy is 42%. Blake Snell walked Bo Bichette, Alejandro Kirk singled, and Dalton Varsho was hit by a pitch to load the bases. These events dropped the Dodgers' win expectancy to 37, 30, and then 21% respectively. Emmett Sheehan came in and gave up an RBI single, a bases-loaded walk, and another RBI knock, slashing the Dodgers' win expectancy to 12, 7, and then 4%, respectively. George Springer grounded into a force play at home for the first out of the inning, inching the Dodgers' win expectancy up to 6%. Anthony Bonda replaced Sheehan, but pinch hitter Addison Barger blew the game open with a grand slam. This completely deflated the Dodgers' already small win expectancy, making it 1%. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. singled before Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, who pinch ran for Bichette after the leadoff walk, flied to left. How often do you see a pinch runner later come to bat in the same inning? And Kirk capped the avalanche with a 2-run homer to make the score 11-2 before Varsho flied to left and ended the inning.
Damage report, Mr. Spock.
The Dodgers' win expectancy fell from 42% to so low that it rounded down to 0, meaning that it was less than half of 1%. The Blue Jays sent 12 hitters to bat and scored 9 runs on 6 hits with no errors and no one left on. Since goose egg rules don't apply until the 7th, it was a meltdown inning, but it was not a broken egg. That inning saw a net drop of 42 percentage points, the largest drop for the pitching team in the entire series. By the way, the largest gain for the pitching team in the entire series was the last half inning of the whole World Series. That was 46%, but that was a gain, so that's not a meltdown. The second largest drop for the pitching team came in the top of the 11th. Here is the situation. The score is tied at 4. Shane Bieber, a starter pitching in relief, as we often see deep in the extra innings of postseason games, is facing the 9-1-2 hitters. Being extra innings of a tie game, it is a goose egg scenario, and the Blue Jays' win expectancy is 50%. Shane Bieber retired Miguel Rojas and Shohei Ohtani quickly, lifting the Blue Jays first to 56, then 61% win expectancy. But Will Smith crushed a go-ahead homer to left, dropping the Blue Jays to 20%. Freeman grounded out to end the frame, but the dagger had landed.
Damage report, Mr. Spock.
As we just said, the Blue Jays' win expectancy went from 50 to 61 to 20% in a 3-batter span. Shane Bieber yielded the go-ahead homer in the 11th, giving him a broken egg. The net win expectancy swing was 30 percentage points, but the drop from the peak was 41. And on a side note, Will Smith's home run was the first ever in extra innings of the 7th game of the World Series. The third biggest win expectancy drop for the pitching team came in the marathon we call Game 3. Here is the situation. The score is tied at 5. Brendan Little, a middle reliever, is facing the 3-4-5 hitters. With a reliever pitching in extra innings of a tie game, it is a goose egg scenario, and the Blue Jays' win expectancy is 36%. By the way, last time a World Series went 18 innings, the game ended on a walk-off home run by Max Muncy. He was due to hit third in this inning. But he didn't get to bat. This one only took 6 pitches. Freddie Freeman belted a hanging 3-2 sinker to dead center for a walk-off home run. With the game over, the Blue Jays' win expectancy obviously was now 0, but none of you needed me to tell you that.
Damage report, Mr. Spock.
Brendan Little yielded a walk-off home run in the 18th inning with the score tied, giving him a broken egg. On a side note, Freddie Freeman became the first player with multiple extra inning walk-off home runs in a World Series career. The total win expectancy was 36 percentage points, and it came in a 6-pitch span. Now for our fourth and final meltdown, one that made meltdown number 2 in this episode segment possible. The top of the 9th inning of Game 7. Here is the situation. The Blue Jays lead 4-3. Closer Jeff Hoffman is facing the 8-9-1 hitters. Being the bottom of the 9th with a reliever protecting a 1-run lead, it is definitely a goose egg scenario. And the Blue Jays' win expectancy to start the inning is 83%. Kike Hernandez, full first name of Enrique, struck out to lead off the inning, bringing the Blue Jays' win expectancy up to 91%. But that's as close as the Blue Jays came. Miguel Rojas smoked a hanging 3-2 slider, sending a screaming liner into the left field seats for a game-tying home run. That one play knocked the Blue Jays' win expectancy down from 91% to 56%. Shohei Ohtani flied to left, and Will Smith struck out looking, much to his dismay, bumping the Blue Jays' win expectancy up to 61% and then 64% respectively, but the damage was done.
Damage report, Mr. Spock.
The Blue Jays were 2 outs from the title before they lost the lead. Jeff Hoffman yielded a game-tying home run in the 9th while protecting a 1-run lead. That is a textbook broken egg. Miguel Rojas hit his first home run since September 19th. The 5th inning single he hit in Game 7 was his first hit at all since October 1st. It was his first hit in a month. The net win expectancy swing was 29 percentage points, but it was a roller coaster. It went from 83 to 91, down to 56, up to 61, and then to 64, doing all of this in a 4-batter span. 4 innings, 4 meltdowns. In Game 1, the Dodgers relief unit collapsed under a 9-run avalanche. In Game 7, the Blue Jays cracked twice. Bieber gave up the go-ahead blast in the 11th, only possible because Hoffman coughed up a 1-run lead in the 9th. And in Game 3, Brendan Little surrendered the walk-off home run in the 18th. Different shapes, same story. Win expectancy doesn't only shift, it evaporates. Now for the most dominant team relief performances of the World Series. It's time for Deadbolt Delivered, where we honor the relief units that slammed the door and threw away the key. Here are the World Series door slams. Real quick, for those who are new to this segment or have forgotten since the last episode. To get a door slam, a team must close out the game with at least 3 consecutive goose eggs. This string must be completely uninterrupted. There cannot be any broken eggs in there, there cannot be any mezz in there, and there cannot be any situation where the score differential is such that the pitcher doesn't get any of the 3. It must be goose egg, goose egg, goose egg. Bang, bang, bang. At least 3 in a row. Why is this important? If a team gets a door slam, they completely shut the opponent down en route to a narrow victory. When the last outs are on the line, it's lockdown only. The door slam celebrates those nights when the back end doesn't merely protect the lead, it shuts the door, throws the deadbolt, and walks away with the key. In the World Series, there were 2 door slams. The first came in Game 3, with Clayton Kershaw, Edgardo Enriquez, and Will Klein finishing off the 6-5 18-inning Dodgers victory over the Blue Jays. Of note here, the trio combined for 7 goose eggs. 1 from Kershaw, 2 from Enriquez, and 4 from Klein. The second door slam came in Game 7, a solo slam from World Series MVP Yoshinobu Yamamoto. That brings the total number of postseason door slams to 8. 3 for the Dodgers and 1 each for the Cubs, Brewers, Tigers, Mariners, and Yankees. Stay tuned for the 2025 Reliever Roundup and Bullpen Bonanza Awards. Welcome back to Reliever Roundup and Bullpen Bonanza. It is time for our 2025 awards. These awards all come from the same formula we use for our regular season power rankings. The team awards include every pitch thrown in relief by a player wearing that team's uniform, excluding position players, during the 2025 season. This table shows the scoring breakdown. Teams are ranked in clutch, run prevention, base runner prevention, and command, weighted as shown. The final score determines the rankings. 0 means right at league average, positive is better than league average, negative is below league average. A score of 100 means the team is 100% better than league average. A score of 50 is 50% better. A score of negative 50 is 50% lower, and so on. Each whole number equals 1 percentage point. The statistics used for the individual awards also come from every pitch thrown in relief by these players during the 2025 season. To qualify for the rankings, however, there is a minimum of 30 relief appearances for an individual player. And for the goose egg per broken egg plus statistics, which forms 2/3 of the clutch category we use to rate setup men and closers, there is a minimum of 15 goose eggs plus broken eggs combined. A note on the roles. If a team used co-closers, we listed both as closers. If it was closer by committee, we listed all members of that committee as setup men. A link to our ranking methods is in the description box below this video. And I emphasize that these rankings are completely objective. The stats from each game go straight to an Excel spreadsheet that weighs each stat and category as I showed in the earlier slides and as are found in the link in the description box. All I do is write down and report the numbers that Excel returns to me. I change nothing. So if you're arguing, you aren't arguing with me, you're arguing with mathematics. On to the rankings. First, the AL Relief Corps of the Year, the Cleveland Guardians. They had an AL Best 5.1 goose egg to broken egg ratio, 1.9 better than the AL average of 3.2. The ratio included 133 goose eggs and 26 broken eggs, both second in the American League. And remember, with broken eggs, the lower the better. Their scoreless outing percentage was also best in the American League at 76.7%, and their ERA minus was 83, second in the AL. Additionally, their whip, 12.15, and home run percentage, 2.2, were both second in the American League, while their K minus walk percentage of 16.4 was third in the American League. And finally, they led the AL in door slams with 15, though it didn't contribute to their final overall score, which was 34.5. The shakiest American League Relief Corps of the Year was the Chicago White Sox. They had a 2.3 goose egg to broken egg ratio, last in the American League. Goose eggs, 99, second lowest in the American League, and 44 broken eggs, which were tied for the worst in the American League. Their 66.5 scoreless percentage was last in the American League. For reference, the AL average for the year was 72.5%. Additionally, their ERA minus of 103 was 10th in the American League, and their reliever whip of 1372 was 12th in the American League. Small consolation that their home run percentage of 2.8% was middle of the pack at 8th, which makes sense, since that was also the American League average. This all contributed to their overall score of negative 7.4, which obviously was last in the American League, but it was also last in the majors. The National League Relief Corps of the Year was the San Diego Padres. The Padres had an NL Best goose egg to broken egg ratio of 4.2, 1.1 points better than the National League average of 3.1 for the season. It broke down to 133 goose eggs versus 32 broken eggs, first and sixth in the National League, respectively. They had a 78.8 scoreless outing percentage, 74 ERA minus, 11.53 whip, all best in the majors, and 16.3 K minus walk percentage, best in the National League. Their 2.2 home run percentage was third in the National League. Finally, they had 17 door slams, second in the NL and the majors, though it had no bearing on their total score of 29.9. Obviously best in the National League, but also second best in the majors. The shakiest National League Relief Corps of the Year is, by a narrow margin, the Washington Nationals. They had a 2.7 goose egg to broken egg ratio, which ranked 12th in the National League. Goose eggs totaled 85, tied for the lowest mark in the majors, while their 31 broken eggs were third worst in the National League. Their 67.2 scoreless percentage was second worst in the league. For reference, the National League average for the year was 72.8%. More glaring was their ERA minus of 138, the worst in the majors, and their reliever whip of 1511, also worst in the majors. Their home run percentage of 3.2% was fourth worst in the National League, and their K minus walk percentage of 14.3% landed seventh in the league. All of this added up to an overall score of negative 5.9, which placed them 29th in the majors, ahead of only the White Sox. As a side note, the Nationals had a lower score than the second worst NL relief unit of 2025 by only half of a point, negative 5.9 to negative 5.4 for the Arizona Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks had a major league high 45 broken eggs. However, the Nationals were worse in scoreless outing percentage, 67.2% to 69.9%, inherited runners scored percentage, 39% to 34.3%, ERA minus by a whopping 25 percentage points, 138 to 113. Whip, 1511 to 1407, not like 1407 is good, but it's not 1511. Home run percentage, 3.2% to 2.9%, and K minus walk percentage, 10.1% to 11.2%. Back to the positive awards. The American League Middle Reliever of the Year turned in an 82.9 scoreless outing percentage, allowing earned runs in 13 of his 76 games. Over 62 innings, he posted a 70 ERA-, a sharp 871 whip, and a 29.2 K- walk percentage, striking out 33.7% of batters faced while walking only 4.5%. Against 243 total batters, he recorded 82 strikeouts and 11 walks, finishing with 32.3 points. The American League Middle Reliever of the Year for 2025, from the Seattle Mariners, Gabe Spire. The National League Middle Reliever of the Year logged an 86.7% scoreless outing percentage, giving up earned runs in 4 of his 30 games. In 25 2/3 innings, he recorded a 61 ERA-, a 779 whip, and a 19.2 K- walk percentage. He struck out 25.3% of hitters while walking 6.1%, with 25 strikeouts and 6 walks across 99 batters faced. Yes, I know it's a low total, but 30 games was the cutoff, and he made it. That performance earned him 33.1 points. From the New York Mets, the National League Middle Reliever of the Year is Brooks Raley. Turning now to the American League Setup Man of the Year. In 73 games and 78 2/3 innings, he delivered an 82.2 scoreless outing percentage and a 68 ERA-. He notched 14 goose eggs against only 1 broken egg, a 14.0 goose egg to broken egg ratio, while posting a 10-17 whip and a 17.6 K- walk percentage. He struck out 26.2% of batters faced and walked 8.6%, finishing with 82 strikeouts and 27 walks against 313 total batters. With 138.0 points, the American League Setup Man of the Year for 2025, from the Seattle Mariners, Eduard Bizardo. Before I continue, remember, these are regular season awards, and nobody's perfect. Every Hall of Fame reliever except Hoyt Wilhelm gave up a home run in the postseason, so don't use that as an argument. Back to the awards. The National League Setup Man of the Year was overpowering across 2 clubs. After joining the Padres at the trade deadline, his combined season line featured an 86.7 scoreless outing percentage and a 63 ERA- in 60 games and 61 2/3 innings. He stacked up 30 goose eggs against 4 broken eggs, a 7.5 goose egg per broken egg ratio, with a 924 whip and a 32.5 K- walk percentage. He struck out 44.4% of hitters while walking 12%, piling up 104 strikeouts and 28 walks against 234 batters faced. That dominance translated to 144.7 points. Our National League Setup Man of the Year for 2025, from the San Diego Padres, Mason Miller. He was also the first player guest we ever had on this show. To the American League Closer of the Year, who was relentless. In 64 games and 62 1/3 innings, he posted an 87.5 scoreless outing percentage and a 47 ERA-. He delivered 44 goose eggs against 4 broken eggs, an 11.0 goose egg per broken egg ratio, with a 10-27 whip. He allowed only 2 home runs, that's 0.8%, and stranded all 4 inherited runners. His 21.7 K- walk percentage came from striking out 32.7% of the hitters while walking 11%, finishing with 83 strikeouts and 28 walks against 254 batters faced. With 210.7 points, the American League Closer of the Year for 2025, also from the Seattle Mariners, giving them a clean sweep, Andres Munoz. Our National League Closer of the Year was equally dominant. In 62 games and 66 1/3 innings, he turned in an 87.1 scoreless outing percentage and a 41 ERA-. He stacked up 35 goose eggs against 3 broken eggs, an 11.7 goose egg per broken egg ratio, with an 859 whip. He paired that with a 29.8 K- walk percentage, striking out 38% of hitters while walking 8.1%. Against 258 batters, he recorded 98 strikeouts and 21 walks, finishing with 198.6 points. The National League Closer of the Year for 2025, from the New York Mets, Edwin Diaz. We considered sending them trophies, but thought that might be a bit much, at least for now. Coming up next, a World Series postmortem with our guest, Dodgers beat writer Sonja Chen of MLB.com. She even talks about the Reliever of the Year awards with me. Don't go away. Welcome back to Reliever Roundup and Bullpen Bonanza. With us is a returning guest. She comes back one more time, she'll officially be known as a friend of the show, because when you get her 3 times, you get that. Sonja Chen, MLB.com, beat writer covering the Los Angeles Dodgers. Sonja, welcome back.
Thanks so much for having me back.
You had quite the first year of your career as an official beat writer, didn't you?
Yes.
Start the year off in Japan, end the year in Canada, and cover a World Series run.
I don't want to call myself Ms. Worldwide, Mrs. Worldwide, but I guess I kind of have a case for it now.
Not many people can say they've covered Major League Baseball games on 2 continents or in 3 countries, but you can, so there you go. And in your very first year, you covered your first LCS, first World Series. Why don't you start off by describing to us your World Series experience? Just start at the beginning and go through it.
Yeah, I mean, there's just something special about being at a World Series, I feel like that almost goes without saying, but experiencing it for the first time, there's like, I don't know, there's just kind of a feeling in the air. And yeah, I think just being in Toronto too was really special because they obviously had not had a World Series for a long time, and there was just so much excitement in the city. I remember before like game 1 showed up to the ballpark, it was like 4:35 or something, like I don't know, like hours before first pitch, and there were people outside like chanting "Let's go Blue Jays," and that's like even before the game starts, and the atmosphere at Rogers Center was just incredible as well. So yeah, I don't know, just very special. It's one of those things where I think sometimes you don't always recognize in the moment like how like meaningful something is, but yeah, it's like hard to explain, honestly, but just something about being at the World Series, it's like it makes you feel like you're there.
Yeah, when I covered it 2 years ago, what I decided to do was, and this was kind of recommended to me, was it's the World Series, man. You're wearing a suit. You are not wearing just a polo and slacks. You were wearing a suit. So I did, and that made it feel more special for me. Was there anything with your attire that was different than when you normally cover a Dodgers game?
Not really, because I kind of like try to be on I don't know, the line between like casual dressy, I guess, most days. So I definitely went like toward the more I don't know, business end of what I usually wear, and like, no light jeans, right? And
Right.
it has to all be like dark wash or whatever. So like I
The
didn't
3 games I saw you at Dodger Stadium, you were wearing a dress, if I remember correctly.
some of them, yeah.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, for Dodger Stadium too, since it's warmer. I mean, it almost feels crazy to call it fall when it's like 90 degrees out, but
Right. Hey, it was
but yeah,
82 outside my house today, and I'm in the hottest city in North America, so that was nice.
Man, yeah, I do not envy you there.
Hey, it's okay. I don't have to switch my clock for daylight savings time, so.
Yeah, that must have been nice. Came back from Toronto and after game 7, and not only did I not know what time it was since I'd been in like some imaginary time zone for the past week, but I had to change all my clocks, and I didn't even realize for a bit.
That had to be fun. Yeah, I think when I met you during spring training, you were wearing blue jeans and a t-shirt, or yeah, everything else was more on the dressy. So yeah, that probably didn't change much. When you got there and saw all the different media, did that kind of blow you away a little bit? Even a little bit, I mean.
Yes and no, and the only reason I hold back a little is because I think we are like by far the biggest media group out there now. So, um, so I'm kind of used to big groups and especially at home, but the Toronto media is also very robust. So I think you get there like for media day and there's all the tables for all the players and you just see like the sheer number of people in the room and it's kind of like whoa. And as usual, biggest crowd all the way over by Otani. Yeah, so that that was kind of normal. But yeah, it's just like everywhere you go, there's like a huge just you know so many people, and on the road, like that's not something that we always see, even for the Dodgers.
Mhm. Well, you do have a large Japanese contingent, but not all of them travel with the team, correct?
Yeah, I'd say like, quite a few of them do. But yeah, not all of them. So we're definitely more manageable numbers on the road. But I know we still kind of surprise uh like people working at road ballparks sometimes just how many of us there are.
Yeah. It was a far cry from whenever I did an A's game on the road this year, which was actually all of my games I did of the A's were on the road. Is
Right.
I don't remember the name of the fellow who covered the game with me at Dodger Stadium.
Jacob Gervis, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it was just Jacob and me for the A's, and then everybody else there was for the Dodgers, and that's what I'm used to. Or being in Houston and it's just Martine and me, or being in Arlington and it's just Martine and me. San Francisco, there were a couple
Exactly.
more, but there were four of us instead of two. So so I don't
Yeah.
know what it's like to travel with a large group at all. But when you were in Toronto, last question about just like the general stuff. When you were in Toronto, how many languages do you recall hearing?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously there's a lot of French around,
Hmm.
which, that was kind of fun for me. I took French in high school and hadn't really used it since. And, it's not like I needed to use it, but I was like, oh, if I wanted to, I could read like 100% of the signs and not just half of them. Uh,
Awesome.
so, so yeah, there was that. And then, yeah, languages like you hear and don't recognize too. It's like, yeah, just so many. There's something just very like distinctly international feeling about Toronto, which is really cool. And it's like similar to what you would experience in like New York City. And like I think in LA in some parts too, but LA is so sprawled, and Toronto, like it's obviously a big city too, but I think you see more of like, I don't know, different people, different cultures kind of mixing together like in the city. So
Mhm.
yeah, like it's just a really great place. And if I had to go back to the East Coast for a series, I'm glad it was there. Because selfishly, I think a lot of us were thinking this, but a lot of people who covered the Dodgers were kind of hoping for a Mariners World Series because it would have been easier, a much easier travel
Oh yeah,
experience. But it's not all about the travel.
right.
And like I'll look back and I think this has to be like one of the cooler World Series that I can remember.
Well, this was my 37th that I have seen. The first one I watched was in 1988. I remember years before 1988, but I didn't watch baseball yet. I was 8 years old in 1988, so the first World Series game I saw involved Kirk Gibson homering off Dennis Eckersley. So, this was my 37th, and I have this top five. Easy.
Yeah,
This was an
yeah.
incredible World Series. Twists and turns, and you name it. And it wasn't one of those where it was a memorable year, like a team snapping a streak, but the World Series itself wasn't all that competitive. Like when the Red Sox swept the Cardinals, because they never trailed. And when the White Sox swept the Astros, those were all close competitive games. But what was weird about that was like the White Sox won the World Series, and 5 years later, it was like nobody remembered it except White Sox fans, which was really bizarre. But this one, every game almost. I think the only blowout really was game one, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And the two in LA, after or games 4 and 5, so after the 18 inning game, like
Hmm.
those weren't I mean, they were in reach, I guess. They weren't really like blowouts, but yeah, like, had the Dodgers been kind of hitting like closer to their capability, they probably would have been a little more competitive, but they're still close enough
Yeah.
where nothing really felt decided until the final out.
Yeah, it was one of those. I guess the best description I heard somebody say of a different game that was similar to those one time was that um, it it was not a blowout, and one team, the Dodgers were within reach, but they never felt like they were really in it. It felt like
Mhm.
the Blue Jays were in control the whole time.
Yeah, that's kind of what it felt like.
Yeah.
And yeah, and honestly it was kind of hard to write about those like in game just because part of me was kind of expecting like a comeback, or at the very least it was not out of the realm of possibility. So, it's like I'd be writing and I just like couldn't help but think like, oh, what if I have to delete all this in like, half an hour? But, you know,
There have been a few
obviously it did
games
not
I've
come back
done
from this
where
game.
where I don't even write my first word until like the seventh inning because what's happening before then, the game's still trying to decide what it's going to do with itself, if that makes sense. Was that
Yeah.
kind of how games 4 and 5 felt?
Yeah, and a lot of nights, if it's not obvious, like that's kind of how I tend to handle some games because, as much as you do want to try to get down before, before final out, like whatever your deadline is, before you go down to the clubhouse and
Hmm.
talk to players, whoever post game, um, you know, you want to make sure that you're not just writing off, the first two-thirds of the game. Like you want to write off the whole game. And um, that's what made game seven kind of a challenge, right? Is that
Yeah.
really was not until the ninth inning that I was like, oh, I guess I should, you know, jot down some Dodgers winning um things here. Like I was already truthfully writing a lot of, Dodgers losing, like did not defend their title. And that's just kind of how it works when you're in that when you have a deadline and there's that level of uncertainty. And to be fair, they were 2 outs away from losing too. So
Yeah. The person who taught me the whole technique of being on top of things and trying to have everything done before the final out is someone you and I both know very well, Bill Plunkett. I call it the Bill Plunkett method, in fact, because his
uh,
deadline is the final out. And I'm wondering what he was doing over at his laptop during those games.
yeah, he was sitting like one seat away from me, but I also don't think that I looked over at him like a single time from like the ninth to the 11th when when those things were happening, because I was just like,
Yeah.
kind of in a frenzy of myself, but by myself. But like I think what he said later, and if I was writing the same type of game story that he was, then I would have done a similar thing. Like
Mhm.
he pretty much had like a Dodgers win and Dodgers lose story, and you just kind of plug in,
Got it.
some of the details. And I guess the thing is like for some like gamers, depending on like which outlet you write for and kind of what you want the game story to be, like most of the body can really be the same,
True.
regardless of a
True.
win or loss. It's just kind of the
Yeah.
top that needs to reflect, and maybe some details throughout too, but you can have a lot that stays the same regardless of result. And yeah, for MLB.com, for like club specific stories, my tone was going to change a lot depending
Yeah.
on win or loss. So I kind of couldn't write anything that like down the neutral. There were definitely some things that made it over, like from the lost story to the game seven win story. But
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of starting over to do.
Yeah. Well, Thomas Harding taught me something of making the summary short, so I'm not having to do as many switches on those. But yeah, we can go on a different tangent there. I do want to talk about the 18 inning game. What was going on in the press box during that marathon?
I think toward like, I don't know. I think like after the 14th inning stretch, like that's kind of when it was like, all right, let's wrap this up.
You're at the point of, I don't care who wins, just somebody end this. I want to go to bed. Like that type of thing, right?
Pretty much. And the good thing is that this happened in LA when first pitch was at 5 and not in Toronto where first pitch was at 8. Yeah, because that game would have wrapped up at like a little before 3 in the morning, and I think that would have put all this in a pretty terrible mood.
Having to do the post-game interviews, right?
Yes, yeah. And all that stuff just takes longer in the postseason too.
Oh yeah. Dieter ran out of music, didn't he? Didn't he have to start reusing songs?
Oh yeah, he reused a couple. Yeah, I was talking to him the next day, and he was like, I kind of joked like, oh, are the fingers okay, And he was like, oh, if anything, it's more like mentally, it got kind of tired by the end. But yeah, I like that. He did the 3 hour thing twice. Like once we got to 6 hours, and I would say, like technically reusing, yes, but more like giving us perspective on how long it all was. And
that's right. Okay. I thought I heard him play Gilligan's Island at the 3 hour mark. And I thought I heard him play it again at the 6 hour mark. So my ears were not playing tricks on me.
That's right. That's
okay.
Right.
Yes. Viewers, if you don't know, we're talking about Dieter Ruhl. His last name's pronounced Ruhl, right?
That's right.
Dieter Ruhl is the Dodger Stadium organist, one of the best in the business. Terrific human being, too. Love talking with him. He's just hilarious. So, yeah, he's got something for everything. So the fact that he... and of course the psychological thing, too, because I don't know if you know, before I was a writer, I was a band director. You can only play so many times,
Yeah. Oh, completely.
Yeah, just being a marching band director when you're on the winning side of a blowout, the fight song gets old, So I can understand that.
Yeah, there's only so much you can do, and yeah, Dieter did, as always, a fantastic job, I'm sure a lot of people kind of, either don't know that there's a physical person up there doing that, or possibly take it for granted. But yeah, Dieter is awesome. Just the soundtrack of Dodger Stadium.
Yeah, not only that, he's just a fun guy to be around. Not just talk to be around, But
yeah.
So now getting to the whole point of the show, relief pitching. We can talk a long time about the World Series because it's the World Series and special, so that's okay. The relief pitching part. Entering the postseason, the Dodgers of the playoff teams had the lowest ranked pen in the National League post-trade deadline. And of the playoff teams in the American League post-trade deadline, the Blue Jays had the lowest ranked pen. And we got a pretty good taste of why during the World Series, didn't we?
Indeed.
So, were there any relief meltdowns that surprised you?
Not really, and it sounds bad to say that, honestly, to say that I'm expecting this kind of stuff, but yeah, not really. It's a lot of it was situational. Like in game 1, when like Emmett Sheehan inherited bases loaded.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's like that's just a situation that he had never been in before coming into that, not creating it himself, right? So that it's like that didn't feel very, like that was going to work out well. And then trying to think another one, like I think game 5 was like Edgardo Enriquez relieved Blake Snell, right? Yeah, even that one I didn't feel very good about either. And I think the tricky thing, like the 18 inning game kind of threw off like I don't know, how we saw some of these guys just because the bullpen did so well that night. They're facing a very different Blue Jays lineup than, their full strength lineup because at that point, John Schneider had used some pinch runners, pinch hitters. Like Vladdy was still in there, and that was obviously a, big bat to get through every time. But like no Bo Bichette was a huge thing that I think helped a lot of the relievers out.
They didn't have to face Springer for a while either.
Yeah, Springer. Yeah. So, with Edgardo Enriquez, I wasn't putting as much stock in, like that game 3 appearance. And you want to give him still the credit where he's due there because
of course.
He did his job that night. But I didn't really like him in that spot in game 5.
Now, as a public service announcement here, the players, if any of the players watch this, both of us well enough to know we mean no disrespect to you at all. We're simply talking about the performance. They know that. For fans, we mean no disrespect to the relievers. We're simply talking about the performance. Now, back to the business part of this. Dodgers inherited runner score percentage during the World Series. They allowed 57% of them to score. That is not typically a formula for success, would you say?
Yeah, not really. No.
League average is typically in the low 30s. If you're in the low 30s, you consider yourself doing well. So 57% now. Now the Blue Jays, it was 35, so it was about average. In game 3, the big surprise on the positive side was the work of Will Klein. By the way, joke of the broadcast for the whole World Series came from Joe Davis. You and I both know Joe very well. Joe's a funny, funny guy. He had the best joke of the World Series. Before Will's 5th inning of relief, I think it was, they did a zoom in on Will Klein and, showing his super awesome beard. And Joe said when this game started, Will Klein was clean shaven. I was laughing for almost nonstop for about 3 minutes at that one. So, seeing Will Klein do that, what's going through your mind there? Because you had never seen Will Klein do anything like this before, correct?
No, yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things where it really did not feel like anyone was going to be scoring for a long time. So I was just kind of thinking, how much could they possibly get out of him tonight? Mm-hmm. And, looked at his minor league game logs to see how many pitches he had thrown this year. It was like 45 at most. And then, in his professional career, this number I might not have exactly right, but it was either like 56 or 59, and it was 4 years ago. So, yeah. And I was thinking, maybe he has like 2+ innings in him, maybe. And then he manages to give them 4 and 72 pitches. It's remarkable. And it's really something that I love about the World Series too, where it feels like every year there's someone who gets a World Series moment and they're, not one of the superstars. And you can go even farther for Will Klein, where it's like, I think a lot of people just had never heard of him flat out. And that's like understandable that they hadn't. Like he was not on any of the other postseason rosters. He was up in the big leagues with the Dodgers for, I think 14 appearances this year. So, he was on the roster, but he didn't like, it's not like he was a expected to be like a key piece of any postseason bullpen, and then he goes out and has like the performance of his life in the World Series.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, I can reference Rookie of the Year here. Great film. The look on your face is telling me you've seen this movie. Of course you have, right? When Chet went to the mound to talk to Henry, and he said, "You go to your have to, and you use your have to." That's what I felt like a lot of guys do during the World Series. And Will Klein, that's the only explanation I could come up with, is he reached down into his have to and did it. Does that make sense?
Oh, I think so. I mean, yeah, it's just it kind of reminds me of, how people talk about, and I guess I've never actually looked up like whether this has actually happened or if it's kind of one of those like just like an expression, but mothers like lifting up a car to save their babies, right?
It has happened. It is documented. From the adrenaline.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, they lift it up, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not
like,
super common, but it has happened.
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah. It's like that situation. It's like the Dodgers pitching staff was the baby trapped under the car, and yeah.
Will Klein's like, okay, I guess it's me. And another hero of
Yamamoto.
that game. Oh yeah, Yamamoto, right. I keep talking over you. I'm so sorry. Okay. The last 18-inning World Series game was also Dodger Stadium and also ended on a Freddie Freeman home run. No, it was Max Muncy, excuse me, who was due up third that inning, by the way. Yes.
That's right.
But anyway, where I was going with this was the next day, my hero was Ted Barrett, who had the plate that night. He had been out there almost an entire 8 hours, and they don't get to sit down. The umpires don't during the game at all. And he did it. Well, I met Ted Barrett in 2023, right after he'd retired. And I told him I couldn't believe he did that. He was my hero for the next day. He said it was one of those things that I didn't know I could do until I actually had to do it. And I just did it. And then the game ended, and I'm sitting here going, what the heck did I just do? Because Ted also called a great game that night. If you've ever seen tapes of that game, he did a terrific job. I don't recall who had the plate. Was it Mark Wegner who had the game 3 behind the plate?
Yes, it was.
Okay,
yeah.
And other than that ball 4 that pitch that was called a strike to Dalton Varsho, that was definitely a ball. I thought he did a pretty good job overall for the whole night. And again, not getting to sit down. I don't know how he could walk the next day. I don't know how Will Smith could walk the next day. He caught that whole game.
Yeah, caught the entire World Series. And it was basically like 8+ games in terms of innings,
True. Yeah. And Will Smith, it's the 6th year in a row we've had someone named Will Smith win a World Series. He was 3 of them, but yeah.
It's one of those crazy little streaks in baseball where, like technically they don't mean anything, but it's what's so fun about this game that like stuff like this happens.
Yeah. Just like this is still active. Every Stanley Cup champion from 1980 to the present has had somebody on there who was a teammate of Jaromir Jagr as a professional at some point.
Yeah. Like that's awesome.
To put it in perspective, I was born in 1980, and I'm 45. So, another in perspective, the last time the Blue Jays were in the World Series, I was 13.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, that really kind of wakes it up there. So, yeah, I was in 8th grade when Joe Carter hit the home run.
Man.
Now my son's in 6th grade. So, anyway, So, shifting gears from the World Series, this is also our Reliever of the Year, or Relievers of the Year episode. Sonja has been given the list already. Yes, it's because I like to make sure my guests are prepared. I don't like catching them off guard because it's not fun for anybody. The AL Middle Reliever of the Year, the AL Setup Man of the Year, and the AL Closer of the Year all came from the same team. you saw this team, the Mariners, in the final series of the regular season. Are you surprised at all by this? Did you see, when you saw this, did it line up with the performance you saw when you covered them?
Yeah, I would say so. You know, the Dodgers were in Seattle for the final weekend of the regular season, so at that point, both teams were kind of just tuning up for the postseason, honestly. So I don't think I saw we saw like Munoz. I don't think we saw all of like their best guys, but just from kind of tracking them from afar, like yeah, that checks out for me.
Did you see Spire or Bizzardo in those?
Think Bizzardo, possibly Spire. I do not remember.
Okay, yeah. So Gabe Spire, AL Middle Reliever of the Year. Congratulations, Gabe. Eduardo Bizzardo, AL Setup Man of the Year. Congratulations, Eduardo. And Andres Munoz, closer there. And then the National League, you saw these guys a lot. Some of them. Brooks Raley was hurt a lot of the year, but when he was there, he was lights out for the Mets. Did you get to see him during the year?
Gosh, I do not remember.
The Dodgers played the Mets early, didn't they?
Yeah, it was last week of May and first week of June, pretty much.
Yeah, I think he was hurt during that time.
Yeah.
So, you did see Mason Miller. I saw Mason Miller. He was first player I had on this show as a guest, in fact. Mm-hmm. And you know what Mason can do.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you're not surprised he got National League Setup Man of the Year at all.
Mm-hmm.
Barry Bloom said it's not fair to have him setting up instead of closing.
Well, hey, I'm sure that next year, if he's not back to the rotation, which I think is also a possibility, then yeah, I'm sure he has that closer role wrapped up.
People keep talking about it because he came up as a starter. I think it would be foolish because part of why he's able to throw so hard is because he doesn't have to save anything.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
But, and then closer of the year, it wasn't Suarez, even though Suarez led the National League in saves, but we don't use saves on this show. We use goose eggs, and that went to Edwin Diaz. The explanation being Diaz pitched in more games that were close. Diaz also pitched in tie games, and tie games you get goose eggs for scoreless innings, but you can't get a save. So that's where it went to Diaz there. Again, Sonja knows this for the viewers. I don't make a subjective call on these. I put a formula in an Excel spreadsheet 2 years ago. I put in the stats. I report what the numbers pump out. The numbers pumped out, Edwin Diaz was number 1, so that's why he got it. Robert Suarez was number 2. But when you saw Diaz this year, did this line up with what you saw?
Yeah, and I guess same with, Brooks Raley. Like it has been a while. But I remember Diaz being very effective against the Dodgers back in May and June. I think.
Yeah, it's a long time.
I'm trying to remember some of those games. I know that like quite a few of them were kind of decided late.
Yeah.
But
I think the Mets hit a 9th inning home run in one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one I remember very well.
Was that off Vesia?
Yeah, off who?
Was that off Vesia?
No, I think it was off Tanner Scott.
Tanner Scott. Oh, poor guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then AL Relief Corps of the Year was the Guardians. Again, it was the second year in a row for them. They weren't historically good like they were in 24, but they were still incredibly good. And then National League Relief Corps of the Year was the Padres, which is of no surprise to just about anyone because that pen was loaded. That wasn't their problem. Their problem was being ahead before it got there. So,
Indeed.
Yeah, so anyway, we're going into the offseason here. Dodgers have some needs to address. Have you heard anything as far as what they might do when it comes to shoring up that back end? Or is it going to be a matter of just getting the guys they already have healthy again?
I do think that will be part of it, and I don't know, I'll be interested to see how the team kind of reacts to Tanner Scott and Kirby Yates not really panning out last year as they make those decisions this year. You know, I think, Tanner Scott being a bounce back candidate certainly makes sense going forward. And there's time to work on what was giving him trouble during the regular season for sure. But yeah, I think they still do have to address the bullpen somehow. I'm very interested to see what they do with some of those guys who are coming back. They have on paper just a surplus of starting pitchers who should be ready spring training 2026, but again, that's on paper for one. Many of them coming back from long-term injuries, not exactly sure what they're getting there. And, a lot of them haven't been in the bullpen too. Right. So, a lot of question marks there where I don't think that they can rely on that alone to improve the bullpen, but I think that will be a big piece of it. And maybe as they kind of monitor how these guys are doing throughout the winter, maybe that does have some sort of impact on the moves they make. But, all indications are that they're kind of going to do whatever they can do to improve this roster and get them in shape to bid for a third straight World Series.
There you go. No National League team has ever three-peated, ever.
In
fact,
I didn't know that.
The only two teams that have ever three-peated are the Yankees and the A's.
Right.
The A's in the early 70s. And then the Yankees did, I think they had a five-peat they had a three-peat in my lifetime. They had a five-peat from 49 to 53. I think they had a four-peat in the early or late 30s, early 40s. I can't remember, but I know the Yankees have at least two of them. So anyway, if it were any other team, I would ask, did Sasaki win himself a closer job? But we know how Dave Roberts operates. Closer is a nebulous concept with him. He doesn't use them that way. He uses them for portion of the lineup. So did Sasaki win himself a gig on the back end of the pen is what I'll ask.
Well, I think all indications the organization is hoping that he'll be part of the rotation again. Okay,
so they may have to look for some more bodies then for that back end.
Yeah, I mean, maybe there is a chance that since it worked out in this month, maybe there's a future in that, but I still think that they see his highest ceiling is being a frontline starter, and that's another kind of piece of the calculus in the offseason and in spring. So it'll be really interesting to see how that kind of plays back out.
Wow. It's kind of along the lines of, for a while, Bear Bryant, the legendary University of Alabama football coach, would only recruit high school quarterbacks, and then he'd plug them in the position he liked them best when they got to college. It almost seems that way with the pitching staff for the Dodgers this past year. But that was more by necessity of, we just need guys who aren't injured, right?
Yeah, and I think kind of the developmental philosophy too is keep these players developing at their highest valued position for as long as possible, pretty much. And then once there is some sort of need that kind of dictates they have to be moved, then that'll happen. But if you can keep a starting pitcher developing as a starting pitcher, through AAA, then, you keep that going until their only path to the majors is in the bullpen.
That makes sense. That's how it was for decades. That's how it was. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, Sonja, thank you so much for coming back by. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show. You writing a book on the World Series run?
No.
Okay. All right. Well,
Sonja Chen. That plunk if you want it.
Sonja Chen, MLB.com/Dodgers. Thanks again for coming by. We will be right back, so don't go away. That concludes this installment of Reliever Roundup and Bullpen Bonanza from Sport Relay. Join us next time when Barry Bloom will come back by here to discuss free agency. You won't want to miss that. In the offseason, you can expect a show roughly every other week, just as a heads up. At any rate, I am Evan Thompson. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.
Thank you for watching this episode. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like. Click subscribe so you'll never miss an episode of this show or of our other show, Trade Trees. Tell your friends and baseball contacts. If you haven't done so yet, consider buying my books, A Complete History of the Major League Baseball Playoffs, Volume 1 and Volume 2. There are links in the description box below this video. And finally, bookmark and regularly visit sportrelay.com. Until next time, this is Evan Thompson saying so long for now.